Anyway, that's fiction. And I think this is probably maybe still in the land of fiction, edging towards fact. When the newspapers and the magazines and the books talk about you and little girls, right? Is there anything in it?
Well, I like young women, let's put it this way. I think most of men do, actually.
Yeah, but the question turns on how young, doesn't it?
Well, yes. Well, here you come to a concrete case for which I have been behind the bars, and that's what you want to talk about it. I'm glad you left it for coffee, you know, for the coffee. But what exactly would you like me to tell you?
I want to know what happened that night.
But you want the nitty-gritty.
No, I don't want the nitty-gritty. I don't want the nitty-gritty. That was the last thing I want.
It wasn't night. It was an afternoon. No. It was. I was about to make a series of photographs of young girls of that age for a French magazine called Vogue Homme. And I found it quite an interesting enterprise because I like the girls of this age and because the girls of that age for some reason like me. And just it went a little bit too far, one of those on the session with this girl. And it happened one afternoon when I was, after I photographed her. The next day, or the day after, I was stopped at the lobby of the hotel where I was staying in Los Angeles by a man who identified himself as a Los Angeles policeman. I was then booked, and the proceedings started. After almost a year of tremendous struggle and hardship, as you can probably imagine, and you may remember of being on every page of every possible newspaper and magazine. Eventually, the judge who was in charge of the case decided to send me to a prison in California for so-called psychiatric evaluation. So I went to a Chino prison, and the judge told my lawyer and the district attorney that he hopes that that report will be positive and that I will get the probation.
And it was, wasn't it? You came out after 42 days with a positive...
It was very positive, and then he called it a whitewash. So he found some other provision under which he could put me back and then decide when I will be released. And at that time, I thought there was no more point of endure it. And I just left, as you know. That was quite a splash.
Granted that you have this interest in young girls, and it never concealed, really, the fact you have an interest in young girls. Wasn't an incident like the one that happened more or less bound to happen eventually?
Well, looking back at it, it probably was bound to happen, yes. It was bound to happen. Although, on my part, it was done with all innocence. I have to point out that the girl had testified before the grand jury to previous sexual experiences. She told me how far back it was. There's no point of talking about it, but there is the fact that there were other men in her life and that nobody else had the same problems that I had, which means that, again, as you said, my profiles may be such that attracts more attention. You know, if it was somebody absolutely unknown to the press or to the public, he may have not had the same problems. Most of people in the state of California are guilty of the similar crime, since the age of consent in that state is 18. And it's very difficult to find someone who did not have a sexual experience before reaching this age. So that means that there are a lot of law breakers. Well, with me it was a bit more extreme, of course, because the girl was 2 weeks short of 14. But if you have seen her sitting here next to me, you wouldn't be particularly shocked by it. As a matter of fact, you would find it completely normal.
But I'd be particularly concerned to find out how old she was. And you actually did know. You actually did know.
Yeah, I knew she was 14 because she was talking about her birthday before that.
Doesn't the age of consent mean precisely that under a certain age, whatever age it may be, it doesn't matter if the girl says yes or not, or wants to or not, that you're supposed not to because it's...
Yes, I know, in that particular state. That's, again, a question of, you know...
Everywhere in the West has got some sort of age of consent.
No, but you see, if you think of the United States, there are states when the age of consent is 12 in the United States. So you see, and there are other countries where, you know, it varies from country to country. Yes, indeed, you know, that's, well, it's very easy to say it now. One should have thought about it before, but if you find yourself with a girl in a certain situation, you don't exactly think of it.
Here again, I mean, the press, and I can see there's an element of victimization in what the press did after that incident. But even then, the press has got a lot to work on. If they want to make life impossible for you in California and try and influence the court, and if you're self-confessedly interested in young girls, or you get yourself photographed with them, which you did, which actually happened after the case. And I mean, if you went back, wouldn't you be just crucified?
Within the limits of the law, of course, after that, you know. I'm very careful now.
Right, but I'm talking if it came to court.
What do you call young girls? I mean, everybody else goes with young girls. Go to any nightclub, restaurant, you will see the age difference. What do you mean young girls?
Because age is everything.
You mean children or you mean young girls?
Age is everything. Because the law is about age, not about maturity or wisdom or future stardom. I'm talking
yeah, but in France it's 15.
Okay, so it's in France that Nastasia Kinski becomes your next star, right? She's 15 years old, and the world, one way or another, finds out you're having an affair with her. Now, the fact that you're having an affair with a 15-year-old...
before. Yeah. She was 15 before.
But that can get you 50 years in California.
Yeah, no, but not here.
No, but
not in Germany.
If the case comes to trial in California, all these things are going to...
No, I can't get 50 years. I mean, this is the nonsense that press writes about. What 50 years? Just think. Come on, that year there were 20 or 19 cases in California itself of similar nature. Nobody went to prison, or only there were policemen and people in public service involved in cases. You know, I did because it was focused on me. Not that the press it's particularly nasty to me. They just try to make the buck. Lunch is getting into a dinner now, and I just want to, in case if you have in mind finishing this interview, I wanted to ask you whether you intend to end on this note, or do you think there's something more to my life than my relations with young women?
I think there's a lot more to your life. Otherwise, I wouldn't be talking to you. And certainly not going to end in this note, but it's a note that had to be struck.
Yes, I don't blame you for it. Of course, I was waiting for it. I admire your courtesy of leaving it for the coffee.
If it had come with the foie gras, I would have screwed the whole thing.
Oh, yes, definitely.
I'll change the note. I'll put a variation, a happier variation on the same.
No, I don't want to shorten any kind of interest on your part. No, that particularly morbid. And
I've asked what I came to ask about that question. But another side, a happier side of the same question is, which you've already raised, actually, is why do women like you?
They don't really like me so much. Let's not exaggerate, you know. They like me enough for me to get into trouble.
Some of them like you, you enough to dive into bed with you, and on an almost instantaneous basis. I mean,
no,
what does that do for you?
Instantaneous, I think it's with everybody, you know, don't they?
Does it flatter you that women like you?
Of course.
But why do you need to be flattered so much?
It tickles my ego. that's why I am where I am, because I have this tremendous ego, you know. Maybe it has to do with my size, you know. 5'6", you see. Do you think let's straighten it down, 5'6", not 5'4".
There's something you do in your book, which I wouldn't do in a book, for the sake of caution, for wisdom and for sanity. And it's something you do that, in my experience, only men who are trying to prove themselves do. You name the names. when I go through your book, I find that the only thing the William Morris Agency ever did for you, for example, is it got you laid by Carol Lindley. I think that's a very, very funny joke. But, you know, are you sure that Carol Lindley will be pleased to see her name there?
Well, I talk more about her. Carol Lindley is a lovely girl. I mean, I
don't doubt it.
I still have great souvenirs of not only that that night of the Academy Awards, but this subsequent friendship that sprang from that encounter. I used to see Carol a lot, and we were great friends for years. I don't think she would really
Did you ask her?
again.
Did you ask her first before you put her in the book?
No, I didn't.
Would you...
Strangely enough, as you know, the books, before they are published, they are being dissected by all kind of lawyers and advisors. No one had objection concerning that paragraph.
Well, I don't think it's libel. I don't think you can libel anyone by saying you've been to bed with them, if you have.
I see.
But it's a question of manners, or is it... It used to be called, is this the act of a gentleman?
Maybe the women...
Are you a gentleman, Roman?
Well, you know, talking about things like that, 20 years later, it can hardly be called ungentlemanly act.
She might think it's a beautiful secret, and I could think there are other girls in the book, and I suppose I'm doing the same thing if I name them, but just let me refer in passing to Jacqueline Bissett, and there are half a dozen others that I temporarily forget. The names are there. It's really, isn't it kiss and tell?
Well, I've never told before. I think there is enough perspective, and I think I have reached a certain position in life when such things can be such sins can be overlooked.
Well, let's hope that the ladies in question agree with you.
Well, let's hope.